Serious, what was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? Borrowed my dad's camera, found out he was gay. I love the simplicity of this comment. I do not possess the necessary linguistic capabilities to properly elucidate the gravity of the experience. Hard drive failed on my dad's computer. The data recovery software did a pretty good job really, but I could have done without it recovering nude and lingerie shots of the various women he's been banging behind my mother's back over the years. The code to open all the doors in my primary school at the time. A lot of power to open any locked door for an 8-year-old. I used to work in the basement of a pretty large hospital doing engineering work. They'll often cart dead bodies out of the hospital through the basement, so it's usually not a big deal. You just tend to try and ignore it. One time as I was finishing up a test in a pretty remote room, I walked out to an entire security detail escorting a body. I just got immediately shoved back into the room, so nothing really exciting happened, but I always wonder who that could have been. I work in a major hospital and we service everyone from politicians to celebrities. It was most likely a well-known person or possibly a person from a hot news report that the media was focused on. Even if it was only a sheet and you couldn't see the body, the ordinary people, the reporters, and the paparazzi try their best to take photos. We have caught people pretending to be patients. We prevent ordinary people trying to sneak a picture, which can easily be sold or leaked. No matter how famous, in life or in death, a person is entitled to privacy, and it is the hospital's responsibility to heal them and always protect their rights. David Copperfield Show. I was at an angle that allowed me to see the volunteers running out from the stage during a disappearing act. I caught a ball he threw out to get an audience participant, and since apparently I was too young at the time, my mom went up. She was one of like 8 volunteers. He went down the line and gave them all envelopes. All of them were told to think of a number. He then instructed them to say the number they were thinking and then opened the envelope, which had a number written inside. Every single one was right. Couldn't facing believe it. She said she had no idea how, and acted amazed. I did some magic and knew how most tricks were done or had a general sense of how they worked, but seeing one like this dumbfounded me. I figured when they did sit like that on TV, it was all paid actors, but it was my mom, so it had to be real, and I for the life of me could not fathom it. 10 years later that show got brought up. My mom says, "Oh yeah, no, he just told us all what number to say." I don't know if I wasn't supposed to see this, as I can't figure out any reasoning behind this beyond maybe exhibitionism, though really I don't want to put exhibitionists in the same group as this couple, because goodness gracious, I had a patient who was close to death, and we called her daughter. She came and we set her up in the room to stay until her mother passed. She brought her boyfriend, which is not abnormal. I walked in to do my routine check and they were having sex on the cot that was set up for her, maybe 15 feet from her dying mother. I mostly didn't want to see, so I am answering this wrong. My dad's AA chips. Learned it's why my parents got divorced. Proud of him for being in recovery though. My third job I had, at 17, was at a pizza place. I had 2 managers, 1 male, 1 female, and they were both married to other people. Well, I went to hand in my drawer at the end of one shift and walked into the office, and there they were just making out with some heavy petting. Their spouses found out. They left their families, and then those 2 managers got married to each other. As far as I know, they're still together. Back when I was a teenager, we hosted a New Zealander at our house for a couple weeks. Guy gets to our place after the flight, and about 10 minutes later I'm walking around my house to see where he's at. The door to his room is partially open, and the dude is laying face down on the bed and humping the ever-loving fuck out of a pillow. I backed away slowly like Homer when he saw Apu cheating on his wife. I felt bad for the pillow. One used laptop from my female friend in the bed. She had a bunch of nudes on it. Happened when I was 7. I found a Tom and Jerry DVD I had lost, in the back of a drawer. In celebration, I decided to watch it again. By the time my mother walked into the living room and saw me watching a threesome, I was already scarred for life. She took away the entire DVD collection. I found invitations to my big surprise 18th birthday just lying on the floor a few weeks before the event. I had to act surprised when the time came to walk through the door to the party, which I did. The only thing is, my twin brother also knew. which I didn't know at the time. And let's just say his acting skills are really bad. So we both found out in different ways about the surprise party, but neither of us knew that we found out about it. So when I walked through the door for the surprise, I could tell from his reaction that he knew. Dude robbed a gas station. I was riding my bike in the back, saw him take off his mask and get in a car. We made eye contact. I turned my head and acted like I didn't see anything. When I was a young teen, I was once leaving my house to go do something in the neighborhood. As soon as I got out of the door, I heard my parents at the garage. My mother seemed to be in her car, and my father was sitting down behind her car and pleading with her not to leave. My parents were divorcing, and I saw a few scenes that I wish I never had. Not really horrific, but seeing your parents in emotional pain can be rough. When I was 11, I walked into my mom's bedroom and saw my mom and her husband doing a 69. We never spoke about it. Years later, when I was 24, she walked into my bedroom and saw my BF naked with a boner. We never spoke about it either. A while back, someone posted a video of a father singing to his baby in the NICU after an emergency C-section. The baby had been taken out early because the mom has died unexpectedly overnight. The baby died shortly after. After I watched that, I felt like I had intruded on someone's private moment with their child, and that I was not supposed to see that. I filter the links I click on a lot more carefully now. I hope that man has found a way to begin his healing. I do conventions and corporate events for a living. Was once called into a room to fix a power cable. It was a meeting of a worldwide well-known house paint manufacturer. It was a closed-door meeting and I had to be let in to do my job quickly. They didn't stop talking as I did my work. We've pulled all the units from production and recalled all units on the shelves, but the ones still in transit cannot be recalled. They might be cut when they reach the sales floor if the retailers are still watching the recall, but it will have been weeks since we issued it. The guy who then responds to that states that they can prove they did their diligence in court with the recall, and any units sold to consumers will be the retailer's fault. I never did get to hear what the recall was for, but they seemed pretty tense over it, legally speaking, so I doubt it was quality control. I felt like I had witnessed the mafia talking about a murder. I found a suitcase full of dildos under my mom's bed when I was 8. One time when I was around 9 years old, I woke up to take a leak in the middle of the night. I saw that the TV was still on in my parents' room through the tiny opening in their bedroom door. My bathroom's near my parents' room. I went to check up on them, and when I opened the door, my God, I can never erase what I saw. I saw my mom on the edge of the bed and my dad eating her out with all his might. I literally said, "Mama," and they didn't even hear me because they were so into it, so I just ran quickly back to my room. I remember the next morning, during breakfast, I asked my mom if there's any more juice left and she said, "There's no more. Your dad has the last cup of juice." And then my dad said, "You can drink the rest of it if you want." He offered his cup of juice to me and I looked at the rim of the cup and already felt sick to my stomach. I'm 20 now and I still can't believe I remember seeing that. Bad stuff, I saw a car get shot up one time. Good stuff, discovering poorly hidden Christmas and birthday presents. The salaries of everyone working at the company I was working at. It was a smaller, startup digital ad agency with about 60 employees total, and someone from HR was making copies of a document that listed everyone's salary, and left the original on the glass of the copier. I found it, and turned it back in, but not before I went through that list to see what everyone else made, and discovered that a couple new hires working the same position as me were making more than me. So after turning it in, I met with my manager and used my newfound knowledge to my advantage to successfully negotiate for a raise, along with the tacit promise that I wouldn't divulge what I knew to anyone else in the company. The owner of the club where my sister worked took an armload of shotguns out of his truck. It was about 3 a.m. and I was parked behind the bar waiting for her. The reason I know he didn't mean anyone to see is because he covered them with the tarp and he gave a good long stare around when he got out. Shady facer. He was up to every kind of no good. I literally scrunched down in my seat. Back in the day, I would try to download anime episodes and clips off of P2P services. This was the days of Kaiza, before people widely recognized that P2P programs were hives of illegal porn, and I'm one of the kids who was introduced to all sorts of disturbing stuff this way. The worst, though, was a small clip of a crying girl, late teens, 20 at the most. It was only about 10 seconds long, but at about the 6-second mark, about the time I was sighing and saying ugh, Of course this isn't Goku. Someone shot her in the head. I hadn't even noticed the gun at her temple until her skull was shred to pieces. Every once in a while, I remember that, and it makes me wonder who she was, who mourned her, and what sort of sick person films that. I came home from working my second job to my now ex-wife having sex with some guy in our house. I saw my mom giving my dad a blowjob, but it was on a video on his phone. Back in 1997, I started work at a new job and took over the office of a salesman who had recently been fired. I was in IT, using the same computer that had been set up for sales. My first task was to install all the software I'd need. The computer hard drive was almost full, so I poked around and found a ton of folders filled with porn. Went to my supervisor, and he said to delete it, warning me that the salesman had been fired for downloading porn. Over the next few weeks, I kept finding secret porn folders on the company's network. Not only had he downloaded enough porn to max out his computer's HD, he had the network at about 90% capacity. When I was done deleting all the folders I could find, the server capacity was less than 50%. Dude was seriously addicted to porn. My supervisor plowing an operator in the ass in the work showers. He just looked at me, then looked back at dude's head and started going for broke. I left. None of us ever acted like it happened. Years ago a colleague had an old smartphone that he brought in to give to another co-worker as theirs broke. The phone was sitting on the new owner's desk, but she hadn't yet tried it out, as it was still charging after months of not being used. We were talking about how cool it was with the co-worker. Smartphones were not widespread yet, and I picked it up to see how it felt in my hand. I pressed a button and the first thing that I saw was a Google search for lump on anus. I quickly put the phone back down. This must have been the last thing he searched for when he last used it a long time ago, and forgot about it.